May Arts Week on Papercrafters Library blog. Every day during the week of May 14th to 18th, 2012, we will be sharing different project ideas featuring gorgeous May Arts ribbon. At the end of the week, 2 lucky winners will receive their choice of any 4 rolls of May Arts ribbon, and we'll share more details at the end of this video. In today's video, we're going to show you how to create this Way to Go card. It's featuring some of May Arts chevron ribbons. So let's get started. You're going to need a piece of Tempting Turquoise cardstock that measures 7.5 by 7.5 inches. I've scored it down the center at 3 3/4 with my paper trimmer and scoring blade, and now I'm going to crease along the score line with my bone folder, creating a card base that is 3 3/4 by 7.5 inches. And I just wanted this extra large card because I felt that my focal point needed a larger base. If you're looking for an envelope, you can always alter a slimline envelope, and those envelopes measure 3 7/8 by 8 7/8, so you could always trim that down in order to fit this card. So once you have your card base, you're then going to need a piece of ebony cardstock that measures 3 5/8 by 7 3/8, and then you're going to need a piece of designer paper, and here I'm using Bo Bunny's Back to Basics designer paper, and it's in this beautiful orange color, and the background I found mimicked my focal point with the stars and circles. And this piece measures 3 3/8 by 7 1/8. You're going to center and stick your designer paper to your ebony cardstock with your double-sided adhesive, leaving equal borders on all 4 sides. Once you have that complete, you're going to center and stick your matted designer paper to your card base with your double-sided adhesive, leaving equal borders on all 4 sides. So now that you have your card base created, we're now going to create our embellishments. So you can set this aside for a moment, and you're going to need a scrap piece of basic black cardstock, a scrap piece of Tempting Turquoise cardstock, a scrap piece of pumpkin pie cardstock, as well as a scrap piece of parakeet cardstock. Now the ebony and the parakeet are from Basil, and the Tempting Turquoise and the pumpkin pie cardstocks are from Stampin' Up. So we're going to die cut and punch out some elements for using these pieces of cardstock. So I'm going to start with my pumpkin pie, and you're going to take a 1.5 inch circle punch, and this is from EK Success, and I'm just going to punch out a pumpkin pie circle. You can set aside your punch as well as your scrapped cardstock. Then I'm going to take my parakeet cardstock, and I'm going to punch out a 1 3/4 inch circle using my 1 3/4 inch circle punch from Stampin' Up. You can set aside your cardstock and your punch. Now I'm going to die cut my circles and my scallop circles, and I'm going to die cut a circle from my Tempting Turquoise cardstock, and this is approximately a 2 3/8 inch circle die, and that is found in the Standard Circles Small collection from Spellbinders. And then I'm going to take and die cut a scalloped circle from my ebony cardstock using my Classic Scallop Circles Small, and this is the 3rd largest scallop circle. So once you have your circles punched, you're going to then die cut these using your Big Shot. So off to the Big Shot I go. So now that you're back from the Big Shot, you're going to take your Tempting Turquoise circle that you've die cut, and you're going to emboss it using Stampin' Up's Perfect Polka Dots embossing folder. So just lay that in the folder and run this through the Big Shot, embossing this Tempting Turquoise circle. So now that you have embossed your Tempting Turquoise circle with your Perfect Polka Dots embossing folder, I'm going to add some white craft ink just to the raised portion of my circles. So you just want to open your white craft pad and just gently pat your pad onto your embossed cardstock, and that will help give that white ink to the, or apply that white ink just to the polka dots. You may get some added to the rest of your cardstock, that's okay. It's just helping to enhance those polka dots slightly. So because you're working with craft ink, you want to either heat that with a heat tool or set that aside to dry for a moment. I'm just going to heat it with the heat tool in order to help the white craft ink speed up its drying process. So now that you're done heating that, I'm now going to take and I'm going to stick my polka dot piece of Tempting Turquoise cardstock to my ebony scalloped circle here. I'm just sticking that down, leaving the scallops exposed using my double-sided adhesive. You're now going to take your pumpkin pie and parakeet cardstock and you're going to mat those together using Stampin' Dimensionals. So I'm just going to place a couple of Stampin' Dimensionals on the back of my 1.5 inch pumpkin pie punched out circle here, and I'm going to mat that into my 1 3/4 inch parakeet circle. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to stick this to my matted scallop circle using some Stampin' Dimensionals as well. I'm just centering that in the middle of that circle and sticking that down. So now you have this beautiful scalloped circle that's layered in different colors. So before we move on, we have to finish the center of that. So you're now going to need a scrap piece of white smooth cardstock, and this is also from Basil, and you're going to stamp your image. I'm going to use this beautiful star image, and I'm going to stamp it using some Tempting Turquoise classic ink from Stampin' Up! And my star and my greeting are both found in star prints found by Paper Tray. So I'm going to just ink up my star, making sure that it's completely inked, and you're just going to stamp that onto your cardstock. You can set aside your stamp as well as your ink. And you're just going to give that a moment to completely dry before we add our greeting to that. And I'm going to add the Way to Go greeting that's found in the same stamp set. So I'm just going to heat this along. Classic ink dries fairly quickly. I just want to make sure that it doesn't hold any of my embossing powder when I add my greeting. So now I'm going to stamp my greeting onto that. I want to make sure that my star is in the right position, so I want to make sure that my points are off to the side and one straight up and down. We're now going to take and stamp our greeting into the center of your star using some Versamark ink. So ink up your greeting and then stamp it directly in the center of your star. Once you have that stamped, you're going to set aside your stamp as well as your ink. And I'm going to sprinkle on my Wow Black Twinkle embossing glitter over top of my stamped greeting. And this will help just that greeting to pop. And as you've seen me before, I do work over a coffee filter so that I make sure that I don't waste any of this beautiful embossing glitter or make a mess of my work area. So just pour your glitter into your container and then you can set this aside. And I'm just going to make sure that the remainder of my glitter is not stuck down to my star. Then I'm going to heat that with my heat tool, setting that embossing glitter. So once you have your embossing glitter set, we're now going to punch that out using Stampin' Up's large star punch. So I'm just going to trim my cardstock up so that I can position that into the star punch appropriately. And I've told you before, I like to look at what I'm punching, so I always turn my punch over, center my stamped image into the window of my punch, and then punch that out. You can set aside your scrap cardstock as well as your punch, and you're now left with this beautiful star and a glittery black greeting. Now I'm going to take and I'm going to stick that down to the center of my scalloped layered circle there with a Stampin' Dimensional. Once you have that in place, you're going to set this aside with your card base.